Hi folks, Jason here. I'm really excited about this video tutorial that I'm doing for you today. We're going to be looking at Substance Painter and in particular the emissive paint function. And also we're going to be importing this into Unreal and applying some post-processing techniques in there. I think the results are really cool, and the applications for this for your projects, it's fairly unlimited really, in terms of whether you're doing something sort of fantasy based, whether you are doing something like horror, sci-fi, really literally anything. And there appear to be no limits really to what you can do with this. So without further ado, let's jump into it and get going. In the next video, I'm going to be going into Substance Painter, applying the paint techniques and looking at a few of the different techniques that you can use. So thanks for watching folks, and I shall see you in the next video. Hi folks, and welcome back. So as you'll see, I'm now back in Substance Painter, just having a look at the original file with the paint on there. So in this video I'm going to be basically just going through re-importing the original OBJ, which was kindly donated by one of my students, Paul, so thanks Paul for that. We're going to re-import it. We're going to put some of these paint effects, some of this stone effect on there, and then we're going to have a look at the emissive paint. I'm going to put some of that in there, and then we're going to go through the process of exporting it. And so without further ado, let's get going. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just show you just briefly some of the details. So you can see here I put like a sort of stone effect on there. There's some of this lichen. There's also a bit of grime in there as well in the lettering, which you probably can't see too well because the emissive paint in there. And I've got some of these kind of runic bits of sort of lettering. We've got a bit in the center as well, if you can see. This is kind of like a tunnel, which I thought looked pretty cool. You can kind of zoom into there. So it's that's pretty cool. So yeah, so let's get going. So I'm going to start a new project, and I'm going to go and select the file. It was this one that I did because I did this before, so I'll go shape 2. So basically you'll just need your OBJ, whatever it is you're working on. I'm going to move this to 2048. Just click OK and just discard because I've already saved that. Okay, so we've got our OBJ. Now, before we start painting on it, we'll need to go through to the texture set settings, and just going to bake the mesh map. So I'm going to click on that and just let it do its thing. Again, I'm just going to change that to 2048 and bake it. Almost there. It's done its thing, so I'm going to click OK. Right, so we're ready to rock and roll. So I'm going to now go through to the layers. I'm going to start off by just creating a layer, and we're going to put some stone effect on there. So we've got a concrete material here. Probably just going to select that, go through to the brushes, and at this point it's not entirely that important. I'll probably just choose something, maybe something with a bit of a texture, maybe artistic brush, something like that. Yep, and I can use the control key and the right mouse button just to go with that. And then basically you can just start filling this in. If you want to make it a little bit larger, you could do. Again, just sort of trying to avoid it looking too uniform. can see a little bit of a sort of glitch thing going on in there. Let's just go and have a look at the. I might just go and turn off the. I think it might be the ambient occlusion. Yeah, let's go and turn that off from the bake. It seemed to be some kind of glitch, but anyway, it shouldn't have a big impact on it. And then just do the rest of this as well. Again, you can take your time on this. I'm just trying to sort of zip through it just for the purposes of the tutorial. So you take your time. And again, at any point in this, you want to kind of pause the video, pause it. Take a bit of time on it, and you get the best results that you can. All right, so once we've kind of done that, and again, if you wanted to kind of just play around with the scale, you can do. You're ready for the next part of this, which is I'm going to go over with a sort of another material just to kind of add some grime. So this is primarily for the sort of lighting, for the writing, and some of these elements in here as well. You got this kind of these sort of shapes inside here as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to materials. I'll probably pick something like that. That'll be fine. I'm going to take the opacity down. I'm going to use something like a soft brush. So I'm going to go to brushes. If you can't find it here, I think there's might be able to sort of find it by scrolling down. There we go, basic soft. If you can't find it, you can put it in the search bar there. And I'm going to go and select that brush, low opacity, and then I'm going to increase the size of the brush there. And I'm just going to sort of just dust around these edges. Might just increase the opacity just a little bit, because we are going to take this away, so it's not like we're just going to leave it as is. It's just mainly just to add some grime to it. And then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go through to the eraser tool, and I'll use something like the dots, wherever they are. There we go, dots. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go in, and again, you can play around with the size of this. Then just going to kind of go around like so. So it kind of has this nice effect where you've kind of got parts of the, you know, almost like the recesses of the, or parts of the tops of the sort of stone has got the grime in it. That's probably a little bit strong. I might just take that back a little bit. Let's try that again. Yeah, something like that. Not so powerful. Somewhere around there. So you can get the general idea from that. And again, don't be too concerned about making it look even, because you know nature isn't even. You know, it's very often it's all kind of out of balance, as it were. All right, so once you've got that, what I'm going to suggest now is create another layer. And we'll just do this for the lettering. So that'll be the kind of, call this the grime. Grime for the shape. And then we're going to have, double click on that, I'm going to call this grime for the lettering. So on here, and now I'm just going to switch to the Wacom. And again, so in order to kind of get control of this, it's Alt and click and hold, you know, just basically click to kind of rotate. If you want to zoom in and out, it's the top of the Wacom, holding down Alt to move in and out like that. Again, if you ever want to kind of just center it, press F. If you want to move around, it's Control and Alt, and just hold down the top of the Wacom without pressing any buttons, and just move it around like that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go around with the lettering now, I'm going to go back to the material, so I should still have that selected. I'm going to just change the size of the brush and then just zoom in, and here's where you can just go back to the eraser tool, sorry. Go back to the brush and just sketch in. Now that's quite still a little bit strong, so I might just take some of that out. And again, just doodle away, have a bit of fun. I'm just going to hit F just to kind of get it a bit more central, because sometimes it can kind of get a bit stuck. Right, so something like that I think is all right. And then the last bit, I'm going to create another layer for this, is going to be the lichen or the lichen, however you pronounce it. And it does have this in the material, so if I type in lichen, it's got that variety that's kind of like yellow. So I'm going to select that. Select my brush, select that. There we go. And I'm just going to zoom in again with this, and again just choose your size, choose the opacity, and then you can sort of work your way around. Now for some reason I think I've got the soft brush on that. I'm going to go back to brushes. I need there we go, I forgot to change it over. That's better. So we've got this effect now going on, and again I'm going to apply the same method as with the other stuff. And then we're going to go back to the eraser tool, and with the making sure that you got the dot alpha, and then we can kind of go back through and just take some of these out. But that's pretty much looking all right. Okay folks, so that's it for this video. In the next video we're going to be getting into painting in our emissive lighting, so that should be some great fun. So anyway, so thanks for watching the video, and I shall see you in the next one. Okay, bye for now. Welcome back folks. So in this video we're going to be taking a look at painting some emissive paint into our object. So in order to do that we'll need to go through to texture settings, and we need to click on the plus symbol here, and then what we need to select is emissive. Select that. And then as we scroll down, we want to make sure that when it comes to what we want to be active, so once you've done that, we're going to go back to layers. I'm going to create a fill layer, like so, and we're going to make sure that we only have emission turned on, like so. Then we've got to define the color for it. So for this, I'm going to choose something like we had in our previous video. So something like that kind of turquoise type of color. Something like that. Greeny, turquoisey kind of color. Maybe something like that. Looks pretty good. And then you should be able to see that your object is now painted in blue. So in order to kind of to define this, though, we need to basically add a mask. So click on Add Mask, add a black mask, and then you'll see the color disappears. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use a white brush to basically paint in the parts that we want to reveal, which will be our emissive paint. But before we do that, we need to get a decent brush. So again, this is your choice. I'm going to probably do something like the dots, like I used before. Select that. Once you've done that, we need to go to the shader settings. And we need to increase the intensity of the emissive material. So I'm just going to increase this just a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through with my brush now. I'm just going to zoom in and just position this. I might just take the size of the brush down a little bit, like so, and then sketch in. So you can see there now it kind of comes through now. That is quite, probably a little bit too thick. Let's try that again. That's better. There we go. Excellent. Now it's not looking too kind of emissive at the moment, and this is where we can basically, if I just scroll down to, where are we? So what we're going to do is we're going to try and just increase now the emission of this. So what we need to do is we need to increase the luminosity of what we've done there. So what we can do is we can go up to the top here, up to the display settings, and this is where if we just scroll down to the activate post effects, we can click on that and then go through to where it says glare. I'm going to click on that, and this is where now if I just position this, should start to see some difference there. You can see that? So now we can get an idea of the glow. And again, you can play around with this as you wish. There's also things like the shape you can play around with there. Like you could do it as a sort of standard sort of flare bloom. That's another one. Or you could leave it on, you know, spectral. And again, the more you increase that, you can see there you kind of get this kind of spectral kind of light going on there. It's very, very cool. And if you wanted to, you know, you could just sort of continue painting with this. So go back to our paintbrush and you can start painting in. So it's like you're painting with light. It's very, very cool. And again, you could play around with the opacity as well. So if you wanted to maybe build this up a little bit more, you know, you can do that. So just like you would, like say in Photoshop, where you're just kind of playing around with the opacity, you know, when you're doing a painting, basically treat it the same way. Might just make this brush just a little bit smaller. But again, you know, just have some fun with it. You know, play around with it. You know, hopefully, you know, you'll get some ideas from this as well. It's not just a case of just you know, following this. You know, hopefully this tutorial will just kind of give you some ideas. And again, I might just change the size of that brush down a little bit. If you want to kind of do some straight lines, by the way, you could click on one part, hold down Shift, and drag it like that, and go back and forth if you want to kind of be a bit more precise. That might help if you want to just like a guide for what you're doing, you know, when you're doing the lines. So you can sort of go back and forth again, like you're doing Photoshop, and then you could then just sort of continue to sort of work into it like so. So once you've got the lettering done, folks, you can, if you want, do some additional stuff here. Again, I do advise you just to sort of have a bit of a play around, look at some of the brushes here, you know, see what appeals to you in terms of, you know, the different varieties, the lots of kind of weird and wonderful brushes that you could use. Say, for example, you know, going around the edges here, so you know you could maybe, oh, it's quite bright, let's take that down a little bit, something like that. If you wanted to, you could do something like that. But again, you know, just take your time, really, have some fun, maybe have a bit of a play around in that. I think on the original one I sort of did this sort of spiral type effect. Might just take the opacity down on that a little bit. Take the flow down. Had it kind of coming out like that. And again, you know, if you want to kind of just get the eraser tool. So let's select one of our brushes, one of those maybe. There we go. Take something perhaps a little bit stronger. You know, take some of that out. But again, just experiment. And then once you're happy with what you've done, you should be ready to go into the next stage, which is going forward to exporting this into Unreal Engine. So that's going to form part of our next tutorial. So hopefully you found this really useful, folks. And like I say, experiment, have a play. It's a great little program, and the things that you can do with this, pretty much out of this world, really. So I do strongly advise that you have some fun. But apart from that, that's pretty much it, really, for this video. In the next video, we're going to be looking at exporting our model out with its textures into Unreal Engine. So stay tuned, and thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video, folks. That's it. Bye for now. Hi folks, welcome back to part 3. So in this video we're just going to be taking a look at the finished article. So I just took the liberty of trying to tidy this up a little bit, added a few bits and bobs, and I did a little bit on the top as well, kind of added a bit to this kind of this sort of energy sort of center thing here. And that's pretty much it. I wouldn't get too hung up on the playing around with the glare and the luminescence, namely because when it comes through to importing this into Unreal, we're going to be using Unreal's post-processing, so not Substance Painter. So really we'll be making all the tweaking then. So don't worry about this thing being, even if it looks like that, don't worry too much about it, because it's the luminescence and all that kind of stuff and the glare we will be creating in Unreal. So in order to export, all we're going to need to do is once you've sort of completed the model, is going to go through to File and Export Textures. Now it's going to export the textures but not the model, so we'll have to kind of add that in afterwards. So a few things we'll need to do. First of all, you need an output directory. So again, just take an opportunity just to click on that and create a folder. So I'm going to put it on the desktop, and I'll call it, say, because as you can see I've done it a few times, let's say Rune 4. I'll select that folder. The rest of it is pretty much straightforward. We will need to have a look at the output. Now at the moment we haven't set the preset, so at the moment it's just set on Amazon Lumberyard. We want it at Unreal Engine 4 pack, and apart from that, that's pretty much it. So now we're ready to export, and all we need to do is before we get going, just make sure, I'm just going to do a double check, just make sure that everything is where it should be, the settings are where they are, that's all looking fine and dandy. Then we're going to go to export, and we're just going to let it do its thing. It looks like it's exported it. Now it does this weird thing where you expect it to kind of go done, and it doesn't have that. It just leaves it as is. It has exported them. That's perfectly fine. All you need to do basically now is just close the window down. And the only other thing we need to do is go to File, and this time we're going to go to Export Mesh. Don't worry about any of that. We'll just go Export, and again we'll just go and select our folder, Rune 4, whatever it is. There we go. And we'll go Save. Brilliant. So it looks like we're done there. I'm going to close this down. In the next video, I'm going to open up the files in Unreal Engine, and we'll get busy with the importing and the post-processing. So thanks for watching, folks, and I shall catch you in the next video. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye for now. Okay, welcome back folks to the final video where we'll be importing our model with our textures and including our emissive painting. So without further ado, let's get going. So I'm just going to minimize this and going to go through to import. Now what I'm going to do, just so there's no confusion with any of the other models, if I just come through to our textures here, these are the original textures, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call this rune_4, just so there's no mix up. I'm going to double click on that and then go through to import, and now we're going to go and find our file. So it's just going to go to desktop. We'll go and find our folder. There it is. Double click on that, and we're just going to bring them all in. So we've got all the metallic, the base color, emissive, height, metallic, and normal, and roughness. Okay, so we can maybe even just select all of those like so, and then go open. So it'll bring all of our elements in one go. It's going to go import all. Okay, so that's all imported. Right, so what we can do is we can drag our model in. Now it's quite large, so we'll probably have to scale it down. You can see there, and also the pivot's a little bit off. It doesn't really matter. So let's just rotate that. There we go. Something like that, and then we can scale it down as well. Whoop, not too much. So something roughly around about there. And we'll bring that down onto the floor, something like that. Okay, so that's all ready and waiting. I think it's approximately the size of the other one. I'm not sure if it's a little bit larger, but it doesn't really matter. And what we're going to do next is we're going to right click and we're going to create a material. So we're going to call this rune_4 matte, and we're going to double click that. And we're going to drag in our file. So we'll have our base color. We're going to drag in the base color like so, and we'll connect that up. And emissive, we'll drag that in. Now we're going to come back to that. We're not going to connect that up just yet. We'll just leave that to one side because we need to do a couple more things with that. We're not going to bother with height. Metallic, I'm going to connect that up to metallic. The normal, I'm going to drag that in, and we'll connect that up to the normal. And then we should have the roughness. So I'm just going to drag that in and just use the middle mouse to zoom out a little bit. And we're going to go and connect that up to the roughness. Now again, you can play around and just straighten these things up, get a bit of order going on, just so everything's kind of where it should be. So the only one we've not connected up is the emissive. We're going to need to do a few things with this. Now I want to just take a moment just to show you how I created the other one. So if I just go back to content, just go back into this folder here, and I'm going to open this stone texture up here to show you how I did it. Now hopefully it'll just create a tab there. So basically, as you'll see there, it's pretty much like what we've just seen, what we've just been doing. But you see there's a difference with the metallic, or the, sorry, with the emissive. And we've got a few things going on here. We've got a parameter, and also we've got a multiply box, and also we've got our color. Now we're going to need to make some adjustments there. So we could just copy and paste these, but I just wanted to kind of show you how you do them anyway. But for future reference, if you ever create anything like this, you can just select them like so. Control C, go over to your say another material that you're creating, and just go Control V, and it'll drop them in there for you, just like so. So that's just for future reference. However, let's come back to it. So first of all, what we're going to do is we need to create a constant, which we're going to convert to a parameter. So all we do is right click, and we type in the word, well, even before you get to constant, you'll see there now it's constant, and it's constant that we need to open up there like so. And then we need to right click and need to convert to parameter. So that's the first one. We can name it. So like I've named that one there, we're going to name this, call it emission. Let's try that again. Like so. And that'll change the name to that. And then we need to create a multiplying box. So I'm going to right click again and type in multiply. You can see it there listed. Just click on that and create that. So what we're going to do is we're going to, well, before we do that, we need to convert this to a parameter as well. So I'm going to right click, I'm going to go convert to parameter. Like so. And then we're going to connect these up. So this will go into A, this will go into B, and then this node here, we're going to connect that up to emissive. And then I'm going to click apply. Just give it a second. Now in this instance, it's not looking too bad. If you do it, you may find that the emissive texture may not look like this. It might look a little bit dull. If it does, I'm sort of doing this just as a just in case. What you can do is this. I'm going to go to our little folder, and I'm going to double click on that actual texture and bring it up. And you'll see here, if we look on the right hand side, there are some ways that we can play around with this. So if I scroll down, you'll see here we've got some adjustments, things like brightness. And if I just start to increase this here and click save, it should by rights increase it. Let's just see if we can do that a little bit more. There we go. You can see that there. Now, the degree to which you do this is entirely up to you. It just may be that you may end up with, you may end up with it looking very, very dim, like so. And obviously, the darker it is, the more difficult it is to get emission from it. So, bump it up by all means, something like that. But a good indicator is if we just go and save that now, and we go and have a look at our little ball there, you can see it's really glowing quite well. That might be a little bit too much, who knows. So you can basically play around with these, by going into this and having a look at, mainly with the brightness. You can play around with some of these other things, but essentially it's the brightness that you want to be looking at. Anyway, once you're kind of happy with that, we're going to go back to our material here. I'm going to go save. Now you can see there already the material is on the little icon. It's got a little glow, which is a very good indication that it's ready to transplant on there. Then all we need to do is click and hold, drag that onto our thing. Now, as you can see, that's quite zingy. Yeah, perhaps even just a little bit too much, perhaps. It looks pretty cool, but compared to the other one, it's a little bit much. So this is where we perhaps just need to kind of go back and do a little bit of tweaking. So we can maybe go back to our, maybe even back to this, and just dial this down a little bit so it's not so strong. Let's try that. We'll go save. There we go. You can see now it's basically, it's fed the information back. It's perhaps still a little bit bright, but it's certainly a lot better. So I might just take it down just a little bit more. I'll go save. Let's have a look at that. And just tweak it again a little bit. Just bump it up just a wee bit. You should be able to actually see it happening in real time if I just... There we go, you can see that. You want a little bit of tone in there, that's all I'm thinking. Just a little bit of tone, just so it's not totally obliterated any of the detail. Now if you want to be a bit more precise, you could say, okay, well that's at like 0.3. I mean, forget the rest of the numbers, it's at like say 0.3. So maybe we could make it 0.2. Yeah, and do it that way. If you want it even more, you could even take it down to 0.1. And so on and so forth. But I think that's pretty much there. Now, just click on yes. Now, when it comes to the post-processing, what I wanted to do is, instead of redoing it, is just sort of show you the settings that I've got this on, just so you can go and have a play. Suffice to say, if you want to basically just take this opportunity to go, say, just select it. So you see this little kind of violet strip here, this box. This will be your post-processing. If you click that, you'll see there it says post-processing volume. You should get it listed out in the details anyway if you have a look. But sorry, in the world outliner, you can select it that way and do it that way. But in this instance, I've just selected it in the scene. And with this, if we just go back up now to the details, you'll be sort of confronted with some little drop-down menus. So things you need to be looking at to play around with these levels. So, for example, you need to perhaps have a look at the bloom. So again, I've got that set at 8.0. And again, you can play around with some of these things. You can see there, some of this will be sort of visible, perhaps some won't be, but you know, if we've got the little bloom there. That's one thing to think about. We've got exposure. And again, we can, this is mainly for like generally overall. So at the moment, the exposure is kind of set. It's sort of minus 3, but you can play around with that depending on what you want to go for in the scene. Again, this is a sort of similar thing. You've got kind of minimum brightness, maximum brightness. This is just generally, it's kind of environmental, really. We'll leave that as is. And let's just unwrap some of these. Some of this is relevant, some of it isn't relevant. Like chromatic aberrations, you may have seen this on previous video. This is good for like things like underwater and things like that, but we're not going to play around with that. Dirt mask, we don't really need that. Again, the camera, you can play around with some of that, but it's not really necessary. So we've got lens flares. Again, here you can play around with intensity. So you can see there that interesting kind of like almost like holographic kind of vibe that I've got going on with, you know, where the lettering's being projected out. That's where you can play around with some of this. If you want a bit more control, again, you can do things like just type the number in. So you could maybe put it at 1, say for example. If you didn't put it on 1, maybe you could put it on at like 0.09. yeah, or 0.10, you know, or 0.8, say. So yeah, that'll be up for you to kind of just have a kind of play around. But yeah, you can get some quite interesting effects going on there. And tint, again, you can play around with that, but basically it just kind of gives you a different tint on that reflection. So it could be quite interesting. You know, you got one color going on, but I would suggest if you know, go with the color that your emissive lighting is at, or emissive painting. Now, I'm not sure how to pronounce this, but you've got your bokeh, or I'm not sure if it's like an acronym, but you can play around with that as well. Now, this kind of determines the kind of size of it. So again, this is where you could perhaps just do with, you know, I'll put it as 0.05, say. See what that does now. 0.10 now. Let's see where we can actually get some kind of difference going on. So it seems like the closer to 0 you get, the better. So maybe we could make it 0.0, or maybe even make it minus. Let's have a look at that. Not much difference there, but I think we'll just kind of keep it. We'll probably keep it at that. Again, it just takes a bit of playing around, that's all. And then you got things like threshold. Again, some of this is quite subtle. And then lastly, we've got vignette. So we're going to find that. There we go. Vignette intensity. So basically, you can sort of create like a little kind of darkened. You can really darken things down just so it's a bit more kind of focused, like you get in a movie, you know, sort of vignette. I think that's pretty much it, really. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag in a shape, a little box I can just put on there. Just for our character to stand on. And let's have a look. Let's go into the scene and see what we can see. Another thing as well I forgot to mention is when you're doing, particularly when you're messing around with lighting, you want to also build lighting. Now that's quite intense. I might just zip that down a little bit. But it's still, though, it's looking pretty cool. Let's just dial it down a bit, though, because it's a little bit oppressive. So we'll just go back into the world outline. We'll go and select the post-processing volume this way, and then we'll have a look at our details. So when it comes to, to this kind of refraction, maybe 1. It's a bit more subtle. Let's have a look at that. Yeah, it's a bit more like it. It's still a little bit intense, but yeah, that's it. And the only other thing I was just going to mention is lighting. Now, that's all looking fine and dandy with the, let me just expand these out a little bit. That's all looking fine and dandy with the, with the emissive, but you want to really accentuate that. And a way to do that is by just simply getting some point light. Get some point light, you can drag that into the scene and maybe put it into this little well here. And then what we can do, so if I just bring this over here, with the light selected, you can go and change the color, right? So we'll make it like a kind of like a turquoisey type of. You could see the effect there. So like something like sort of turquoise there. And if you want to, you can just increase the intensity there. So it just accentuates, you know, what you're doing. And then instead of just creating more lights, what you can do is hold down Alt and just drag it over and put it over here. Do the same thing with the other side. Hold down Alt. We'll put one over in this corner here. Hold down Alt and then we'll drag one over here as well. Like so. So it kind of gives it that nice ethereal look about it. I'm not sure if we really need to put one down in there. And the only other place is you might want to kind of put one at the side here as well. So we can even take just what we've got here, hold down Alt, bring that out there. Now if it's a little bit too strong, because what you might find is it like it obliterates what you've got going on already, you might want to just perhaps dampen down the intensity a little bit. Because all you want to do is just want to kind of simulate this idea of, you know, it's bouncing light, you know. So you could do that, and you could sort of replicate that and put that into dotted around here and there, like so. And then maybe I'll just hold down Alt and drag that over there. So we could just want to take one final look at this and just see what it's looking like. There we are. There we are. So we've got some indication then of like of what you can achieve with this, you know, by playing around with the emissive lighting. I may indeed do another video on this, because one of the things I wouldn't mind exploring is looking at, you know, doing something a bit more sort of sci-fi with it, maybe like a control panel or something or other. I don't know, maybe part of a building. It remains to be seen. But that's pretty much it, really, folks. Hopefully you found this video helpful and informative, and it's giving you some ideas about what you can do. And of course, as usual, if you found this video useful, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more similar content. And be sure to leave me some feedback as well. That's always appreciated. And yeah, and that's pretty much it, really. So thanks so much for watching. Good luck with all of your work, and yeah, until next time, folks, that's it. Bye for now.